Hey everybody, Coach GP here, and through LovePrints, I've been talking about these conversations that I want to have that add. The idea is simple, that in our conversations, we have honest communications. And the ultimate goal in these conversations is to talk about things that matter, and hopefully, when we're done, that we've added to when we're done. This conversation, and in total transparency, I wanted to do this conversation for a while. We've been talking about it, and I did not want to give him any ideas about what we were going to talk about. So Coach Barry Thompson, who is currently coaching at Flint Hill Academy in Virginia, my high school captain, quarterbacks coach extraordinaire, leader over at Fairfax Football Academy, and all-around good dude. And by the way, he's a pretty good basketball coach as well. So there's that. Coach, first, truly, congratulations on 2 state championship quarterbacks and the overall success of all your guys in your program. I know how much work you guys have put in, especially when the lights are off and nobody's watching. It's easy to talk about it during football season when the lights are on and it's glamorous. But I know how much work you guys have put in when nobody was watching, when it wasn't sexy, and you did the work and it paid off. Championships in late November, December have got to make you feel good.
Yeah, and to make it even more special, they were undefeated championship seasons. Championship seasons are rare, but as always, DP, you hit right on the point. It was the volume of work that those young men put in to make these seasons possible. To be a witness to that is an honor, and if it's possible, I'm prouder than their parents.
That's part of the deal, right? That as coaches, quite often we connect in ways that parents can't,
right?
And that's part of why we're there, because we can get the corners that parents can't always get to,
right.
And in ways that parents can't get there. And let me say this as well, for anybody that would see this and understand it, that who you give your children to, and I don't have a son, but let me tell you, if there was a list of guys who I could trust them with, and I would be proud to give them to, top of the list, Coach Thompson. I mean that from my heart.
Yeah, and you know, I've certainly given you my son. So it is important, just all the parents out there. There does come a time where it's important, and I think that a lot of parents ask that question of themselves. When I was around FPYC and the youth football club that we're operating, and the club was experiencing some success. There's no leadership without vision. And so the next level was, we're winning ball games, but what are we doing? And I started to pose it to the coaches. I said, why would anybody come here? There's all these other clubs out that win football games. We win football games. We teach them how to tackle. We teach them how to block. You can get that anywhere. So why is it that they want to come here? And it was so funny that the room fell silent, and I had to fill in the gaps. I said, the reason that somebody would give their child to us is that somehow they're going to be better off spending time with us. That's the next level that we need to move to as coaches, even youth coaches, that a parent feels that their child's going to be better off spending some time with you. So I agree with you a lot, wholeheartedly.
What is that thing? And it is a difference maker in life. It's a difference maker in community. It's a difference maker in athletics. What is the thing that you add? Because you know this about me, that when I interview folks and when I coach folks, the first thing that I ask is, who are you? Yeah. What is that thing that is being added currently in those situations? Because, again, there are no mistakes when it comes to undefeated seasons, successful quarterbacks, successful young people. What is it? Who are you that allows for this to happen? It's not an accident.
Yeah, it's tough to self-analyze like that, but I think I always start with the positive. I think I've shared this with you before, but one of my most dear coaching adages is, and I always mangle it, but I always get the gist of it, I will not accept you as you are. I'll accept you for what you can be. And if you agree with me, we can get together and work on that. And I looking back on, I don't think I ever start very far from that place. I'm always looking at what someone can do. And then we just kind of, the ground rules are laid out, and, the marching orders are given. And that's where we start. It's never looking at someone and figuring out what they can't do. It's you figure out, what is it that you can do here? Can you, what can we do today? You don't know how to do a 3-step drop today. So that's today. We're going to figure out how to get better at that, and then it just keeps going and keeps going.
And I know how much you dislike self-analyzing. So I'm going to ask you talk about a successful coach, right? Forget about the name doesn't matter. We know that, right? That the name doesn't matter. The circumstances don't matter. Let's get to the simplicity of it. Why does it work?
Well, a coach has to have a vision. He has to have a vision. I firmly believe there's no leadership without vision. So a coach can't come in there. He's got to have a vision of something, some place that he wants to take a person or team or organization. He's got to have a vision. And then from that vision, you start kind of constructing a plan of the steps of how to get there. And then you realize it's going to take people. You can't do it by yourself. And I think that's the part that gets kind of hard because as I learned through my youth experience, I couldn't coach. I had 15 teams. I can't coach them. So I had to rely on achieving what I thought was possible by letting people make mistakes and by letting people do things differently than me, all the while kind of keeping my hands on the steering wheel a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I would let them use the gas pedal and the brake, but I had to keep my hands on the steering wheel to make sure it was going on in the right direction, on the right path, or that the path that we were taking was going to lead to where I wanted to go. So I think it takes vision. It definitely takes a plan or structure, and then it takes a lot of people pulling that rope at the same time in the same direction.
Well, you and I have had the conversation about, be careful who you attach your cart to.
Absolutely.
He can be a thoroughbred or he can be a donkey. And quite often we've run around, right? Leadership, we're groups, wonderful in theory, but are often attached to something for the wrong reason. And ultimately, I think in your decision making, I asked this question: how difficult is it to ask the 2 questions that matter most? Right?
Okay.
Why?
Yeah.
Like that. Why we fully understand how deep why goes.
Yeah.
And I think the message isn't always put out there that in hiring a coach, in leadership, and choosing a captain and choosing a plan, the why matters. And then we get to the how, but the why first.
Yeah, I think, why is somebody doing that, right? Why is somebody doing a particular thing? And, to drill down, I know we're talking about coaches writ large.
Yeah.
I've had the experience, and so have you, had the experience when you just ask another coach, like, what are we doing? And there's just dead air, and they want to start talking about X's and O's. And I'm like, no, it's got to be more than this X's and O's thing. From a player standpoint, it's one of the things that I think that I do a good job of coaching out of players is you can get to the point when you're around quarterbacks and you can tell, usually it's at age, that middle school age, where they've kind of picked up some competency. They're not quite as good as they're going to be, but they kind of know what to do. And you can just look at it and you can just tell they're just one after another, after another, after another, after another, after another. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. What are we doing? And it's like, well, coach, I said, but I'm throwing a slant. I'm like, well, what type of slant? He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, a slant in the middle of the field against cover 4, that's a different slant. Where are we on the field? Because we're at the 5-yard line. I said, what kind of coverage do you expect down here? Man coverage. Well, where do we need to put the ball? And then it becomes a whole different thing. So that why does matter on the ground level to the top level.
Now, if you get to go through this thing and a lot of our discussion, especially in our basketball days where we got to coach together, and again, I have a fond place in my heart for having you doing the basketball era because, again, not many people – when I remember having this discussion with you, hey, Barry, I need your thinking in this basketball thing. And you kind of looked at me like, you have lost your mind.
Yes, yes, yes.
What happens is, right, you run off a streak and have a 15-1, one of the greatest JV seasons ever.
Yeah.
And let me say this. Your ability to get to the how
Mm-hmm.
and the descriptions and explanations
Mm-hmm.
and the repetition behind it,
Mm-hmm.
how is that missed in any other – I don't understand how any other coach misses this.
Okay, I think I often joke. I said all coaches steal, and I think I'll brag about this. I am a great stealer of things that relate directly to the players that I'm coaching and how they need to play. I am Hall of Fame at that. So it just starts with, I guess I'm always looking for something. When I'm training quarterbacks or when we were working on the basketball team, you notice that, offensively, I didn't spend any time doing anything that didn't relate to what we were playing or how we were playing, right? All our drills were just little segments of actions and things that we wanted them to do. And the efficiency was gained in that I didn't do separate dribbling drills because they had to dribble during the drills and they had to pass and catch, right, and all that stuff. So to me, that makes perfect sense because you want to maximize your time. And as a coach, at least for me, I want to see whatever drill that I'm working on. I want to see it in the game. I want to see it on film, right? So if I'm not giving players something that they're going to use in a game, then I'm not doing my job as a coach. I'm actually wasting their time.
We've gone through, and again, why you're not coaching basketball right now may be one of the great crimes against young athletes. I'm just going to put it out there. Anybody that look, I don't know how many dudes in his last season was 15-1 and then walked away. That's like some Jordan, hey, I'm going to hit the jumper and walk out kind of deal. 15-1, listen, and then you created state champions and regional champions in that.
Yeah.
And more importantly, a lineage of quality young people who had respect for themselves, understood the process, and learned that amongst all the other stuff, I got to be a good human.
Yeah.
Other thing happens.
Yeah, and it's achievements. I can brag about the 2 undefeated championship seasons, but I can go down a list of. I'll tell you, one of the most moving experiences I had this year was there was a young kid. His name was Justin, and Justin, sometimes I get asked by parents. They go, "Well, is he any good? Should I cut this out?" And I always tell them, the game will tell him. As long as he's enjoying coming, long as he's improving between sessions, and he wants to work at it, let him work at it. The game will tell him, no, he's not any good. So this kid Justin was coming along, and he wasn't the most skilled guy I had. And so we kind of go along, and we trickle into the summer, and, all the guys go, the public school guys go to camp, and we're slowly dividing apart. Well, as we get into our stuff, probably the second week of September, I get this video link from Justin's dad. And he has a preamble to it. And he said that what Justin's goal was in coming to work with us all during what we call the improvement season was that he wanted to be good enough that he could get into any game, and kind of function like a quarterback, take a couple snaps, do some handoffs, and complete a pass or two. And that's what that link was. And if I talk about too long, I'm going to get emotional. But that's huge in that young man's life. I don't know what he's going to go on and do next, but to be a part of helping him do that, to me, is the same care that you put with the guys that are aiming a little bit higher. It's the same process.
Well, we talk about a couple of things. One, that we're all a product of the coaches, leaders in our life, right? And yes, we all steal, right? We all have, right? Absolutely. And in one of the great steals in recent history, especially in my life, was taking something that was kind of birthed in me, and when I was coaching in Utah, and I was at a Christian academy where you learn values, playing the right part in athletics and academics, and then getting to Fairfax, and then having you with the 168 asking more questions about what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it.
Right.
Your ability to connect those things for me is one of the
Yeah.
great love prints of all love prints. We talk about covering the people around you in love that they can go take it. Well, I'm
Yep.
covered in it, and here's a big part of it, right? That your 168 idea and concept push through was rejected. It was pushed away, and folks said, we don't really understand it. This is going out of the direction and priority of what we're doing. It goes on, right? All this stuff. Hold on here. There we go. All the stuff that's going on, and that people will say, like the first thing when it's something really authentic and good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you watch the response of people. That, well, wait a minute. This is going to change. This is going to move the line.
Right.
Like this means that it's going to expose good and bad. And I always tell you this. That comic book thing for me works, right?
Yeah.
You want to know who the bad guys are. Watch how they respond to really good dudes.
Right. And you always say, watch what people run to and where they run from. And that's a great example, because I remember at one point the 168 being called a study hall. It's like, I'm not asking. I don't want a study hall. I'm talking about kids managing their time. That's what I'm talking about. That's on them. So it was funny. And then they're good kids. They don't need it. And remember, we talked about that. They're teenagers. They all need it. And you, of course, took it and shaped it to get many different leaders out of it and all that kind of stuff. But, yeah. And it's funny how they came out, how things come about. And it actually, a kind of a quick little story is I ran into it when I was at Flint Hill. My first high school coaching gig was at Flint Hill. And there at Flint Hill, it was painfully obvious that the kids got to define what education first meant. And I certainly heard the excuses going up, but it was like that visit at Flint Hill that one year, I was like, man, it can't function like this. And it was leaving that and going into the Woodson job, I said, I'm not going to have this. I knew the environments were the same educationally and demographically. And I just said, I can't have that. And then somehow it came up with, I'm going to define what education first means. And I started to scratch it out on paper, and I go, lo and behold, this is a lot better. This is pretty good. So then that led to presenting it, because it made all the sense in the world. It's
common in that. And we talk about this idea that we all have the same amount of time.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that we have on our plate.
Right.
And the simple idea that we make it simple for people to do this, that we all have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to accomplish all of the things that we want to accomplish. Now, as parents, we have that responsibility, and we have that wish and hope. As coaches and players, we both have that. Well, okay, this is what we push through. Somehow you found a way to combine them and simplify them so that we have control of it, and that your players, your kids,
yeah,
it's a constant part of it, and you don't have to explain it anymore.
Well, go back to stealing a little bit. It didn't come out of like thin air. I'm just saying, I go back a little bit. I was a multi-sport athlete in high school and through college. And so there were a lot of times when I was in a car, and in order to get things done so I had time to do other things, I had to have the books out. Time in the car was time to be spent doing something instead of, headphones, and we didn't have them then. But it was either look out the window or play I Got That Car with your brother and get a fight, or, That's Mine, or state tags, whatever people do. It was, let's get the work done, right? And I just found through that process, you just had a lot more time to do all these other things. And I think one of the things you say is first things first. Do first things first. So when you look at the 168, what are the first things that you have, and I use the word have to do.
Mm-hmm.
You have to sleep. You have to go to school. You have to eat. If you're in season, you have to go to practice, and you have games. So there's a 5 things. So when you subtract those things away from that 168, as you know, most kids are left with anywhere between 70 and 50 hours to get their schoolwork done. Well, if it's education first, then first things first, not the other stuff. Get that. And even on a 60-hour schedule, if you subtract 20 hours, to get the schoolwork done, you still have 40 hours, which is a full work week to do whatever it is you want to do, as long as you do first things first, But if you don't, then you'll find some kid up on Twitter at 10 o'clock, saying, I got a paper due, and then they go to sleep, and then their mom says, why are you so tired? It's like, oh, I got so much work, and now the mom's running up to school. It's like, we got them going to school too early. We need to push it back to 11 o'clock, and all that stuff. So anyway.
Well, we go further into it, right? That conversation that we've had several times, right? That while I get it, when the conflict happens and you reach the intersection in the road where it's not being done, and because you set the boundary in place, where teachers are checking in, parents are checking in, the students checking in with you, athletes checking with you, and that they are no longer ahead, because we don't play to catch up, we play to be ahead.
Right.
We learn that they're behind.
Right.
That revolutionary, out of the box, hey, I'm going to take this 2.5 hours of practice time to get this right.
Right. Well, I have two stories on that end. I remember the first time I did it with the freshman football team, one of the caveats, and we talked about this, when you implement it, you absolutely must have a parents' meeting first. You have to have it. And you have to pass along whoever is in the building, but you have to have a parents' meeting. And for me, that's real simple. I say I'm an education coach first, and they all the moms kind of go like that. And I always say I figuratively lock the doors at that point.
Right.
Because here's what I mean by 168. But that includes letting them know in advance that I'm going to send home this assignment, that it needs to be returned by a certain date, and it needs to be signed by the parent. And one of the great stories on that end, and I'll get to your point, was probably about 4 weeks into the season, this mom called me up. We had a game coming up, and she said he can't come to practice. And he was that guy, guy that you wanted on the field. He said he can't come to practice today because he's got all these honors courses.
Right.
And I said, that's fine. I said, go take care of what you want. But I've got 8 other guys that have the same honors courses. Let me check and see how they're doing, because I don't want them. She's like, no. I said, no. I mean, this is an important thing. If I got players that are stressed out, I need to figure out about it. So I called in the 4 guys, and they were like, what? I asked them about a Wednesday assignment. That's what it was. And no, Coach, we did it on Monday. No, Coach, we did it on Tuesday. So then I went back to the mom, and I said, look, I talked to the other 4 guys who getting A's in that class, and they finished theirs on Monday and Tuesday. So I tell you what I'm going to do. Since your son is behind, I don't want him to come to practice for the next week. And she goes, oh, no. I said, no. Education first. So have him next Wednesday, he can come back to practice. Then she started asking, well, could he play Thursday if he came back Wednesday? I said, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but I'm focused on his education, because I want him not only to catch up, I want him to get ahead. And so she took it, and then she called me back on Monday, said, he's killing me. He wants to come back to practice. I said, no, Wednesday. Anyway, that one stretch, that one player took care of it. And I never heard anything from him. The kid had good grades. And on your point, the 15-1 season, I'd made the cut, went down and got a peek at all the grades, right? And something coaches do. And you and I know if we look at those grades, we can figure out how we're going to have to coach the team. So there were guys that were, the guys are going to do whatever you ask them to do. There were some guys in the middle that probably could be doing a little bit better. And then there was this off-the-chart guy. And I looked at the off-the-chart guy, and I already made the team cut. So I went to the varsity coach and I said, I'm not going to have him practice. And his mom was an official at a very academic school. Mm-hmm. And I called her, and she was cool with it. So I brought him into my office, and I said, explain these grades to me. And he went through, and like most kids will do, he had some excuses and stuff, and we went through them. And I said, okay, I heard you out. Now, what will it take to get these classes back in shape? And he said, well, I can get this one by a certain date, that one by a certain date. And I said, here's the deal. You're coming to practice every day. You're on the team. But you will not practice. You will come to practice with your books. And according to your schedule, when that letter changes to this letter, I will give you 10 minutes of individual time. And when that next letter changes to that letter, I'll give you 20 minutes of individual time. And we'll keep going until those grades go. And to this day, I think that was one of maybe 2 or 3 things that I did with that team that really helped it do what it could do, which was win 15 games. Because if I didn't get that kid straightened out, I think the team would have been much different.
And here's another part of when you say your academics first.
Mm-hmm.
And then my real hard line in love and action, right?
Mm-hmm.
You make a decision, you action and love, you love and action. And
right.
if you don't follow it up. Like you can talk
right.
about it, but you don't follow it up.
What do you say? You say love without action.
Well,
right?
if the hand and heart are working together, you can't accomplish anything good.
Right, exactly.
So together in that, and for me, as a part of what we've done, right, is to figure out that shared IQ.
Yes.
That if coaches and parents and communities figured out and accepted the fact that you're absolutely right, that they're not taking these courses by themselves, right? They're not on an island. If we share IQ, if we can take these 168s, and again, I have my folks put them in paper, and we can share the notes.
Right.
See, if my 4.0 guy shares with my 3.0, I get another 3.5 out of the deal.
Yes.
See, we move that guy up, and we know standard set at the bottom, not at the top.
Right. Exactly.
The top is leadership.
Yeah.
And if more coaches would get behind the idea, and you don't run individual drills as a team.
Right. No, right.
You don't run plays as individuals. You organize and you plan for the group. So if I have 15 athletes, 30 athletes, 50 athletes, somebody else is taking those courses. Somebody else is getting the information.
Right.
And if you share them, you and I are both smart guys. Together, we're a whole lot smarter. And if coaches and parents accept this, we're in a good spot.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I remember, too, talking about my guys about having their books on the curb that freshman year. I said, don't give me an excuse that you don't have a book. You're all taking the same classes. So go get his book. And if you're that far ahead, have another book with you because it's education first. And you did the same thing with the locker room.
Yeah.
Said, hey, you got 15 minutes before I come down and get you. You're in school, education first, so have your books out. Now, we're not silly.
No.
But the fact was those books were open, and conversations and behaviors and attitudes were certainly different because they knew that you could pop in anytime those books were open. And
the power of it's your favorite. I want you to understand, players. Here's the deal. I care, and I'm gonna act like I care.
Yeah.
I'm going to continually be everything that I tell you that I am. I am constant and consistent.
Right.
If I ask you to have the books open. And I don't ever recall, other than once. I think at one time in each sport over all those years that I actually had to deal with them not being able to read cite and verse, paragraph and point when we asked the question.
Yeah.
I think once the boundary is set, and this is I really preach. Yeah. Once the boundary is set, and they understand that it is good for them, because coaches, parents, and otherwise, we've never asked them to do anything that's not good for them.
Right.
And if we follow with that, we're good. Okay, so we're going to go in a different direction.
Okay.
Because it's the hot thing, so I need to get into it.
Okay.
Everybody has seen the video of young Keaton. Right? So Keaton was being bullied, and his parents recorded him and sent it out to social media. And you and I just in passing had hey, this is a LovePrint deal. And I'm like, absolutely. But more's coming. More's coming.
And you're talking about the young man?
Yeah. So the young man in Tennessee who was bullied in school, his mom had to come get him.
Right.
And then the bounce back. And again, you and I always talk about it. I said, okay, don't pay attention to the first bite of the meal. Another bite's coming. So be prepared for that, right? No matter what thing it is, don't fall for the okie doke because the first thing. And then we said that why does this happen?
Right.
So let's talk about the first part of it first. Why is it that where are the, because my question is this: how does this happen? I know it doesn't happen on your watch.
Right. You and I.
It doesn't happen on your watch. How does it happen?
Yeah, we talked. What was the Richmond? There was another incident down in Henrico County outside of Richmond, right?
Yeah.
And that was the same thing. And I think our responses to that was the same. It was tragic and all that stuff. But we were like, who hired these people that are supposed to be in charge of the kids? So, I think.
And those were college players.
Whatever it was, it didn't matter. It could be school or college. It doesn't matter. It's the same time. Who's in charge? The college players you're talking about, the Georgia Tech guys fighting in the locker room.
Right.
The Rico one, I think, was middle school football.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's the same dynamic. Yeah. My eyes tend to go with who's in charge. Like that kid that was in the lunchroom.
Mm-hmm.
Around the players that I'm around. We talk about the difference between 2 and 22. Mm-hmm. Which is if you really want to be good, you got to connect these two up. You say you want to be this type of guy on the football field. That's only 2 hours a day. There's 22 hours a day that you're not with me. So I always use the analogy. So imagine I could give you access to the best strength trainer, the best nutritionist for 2 hours a day completely free. That'd be pretty good. And they go, yeah. I said, but here's the catch. For 22 hours a day, you cannot eat anything healthy from you. I said, not even Powerade. It's got to be soda. Can't be anything green. It's got to be fried. That's all you can eat. Pizza, I'll allow that, but no green peppers on it. I said, what do you think would happen? And they go, well, I'd lose my gains. And I'm like, yeah. So to bring it home to this example, and making an impression that a football player wants to be really good, you got to be good 22 hours a day. Who are you, right, at home? Who are you in the community? Who are you in the classroom? Are you sitting up front, in the middle, of the back? Who are you in the hallways? You see a kid getting picked on. Are you the guy that goes up and says, hey, this is my boy, leave him alone? If you see a kid in the lunchroom, right, eating by himself, do you invite him over? Do you go over and have lunch with him? If you see somebody picking him on lunchroom, are you the guy? Are you the shining knight in that boy's life or that person's life? Say, hey, leave her alone. She's different, but she's cool with me, right? So you kind of think if you give a young person those marching orders and you're constant and consistent, they'll follow them because they know that's a pretty good existence. It's just a good existence.
We know this. Like we've put this. For me, as a coach.
Yeah, with your Smiles Project and everything else, it's the same deal. Go out and try to be the best that you can be. Don't be perfect. Just try to make a habit of being really good in all your situations.
At a time, one thing, make that thing better.
Yeah.
So here's the clap back, right? So immediately we ask the question, where does it come from?
It comes from, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but as coaches, we know you get what you allow, right? So whoever's leading that building, I hate to say it, but they're allowing those kids to feel comfortable doing those types of things. Because I guarantee if you and I were running that building, there wouldn't be no milk. The only milk would be getting drunk. Right? And if it did happen, it wouldn't become a national thing spiraling out of control because we would have, you know what I mean?
There are no other good people in place.
They're there. This is what we were talking about earlier.
But there's no other.
No, they're there. They're there. They're there. Yeah, no, they're there. They're there. They're there.
Right? And so I asked the question, right? So I said that there's a clap back.
You're right.
And so immediately you ask, okay, what's happening at home for him and what's happening at home elsewhere? And then, so the second report is that things at home are different, right? Different stuff going on. But also he said, well, how does it get into a school? How does it get into the community? Yeah. And I said, it has to start. So not only his home, but their home as well.
Right.
In the building, because that building's a house.
Right.
And that nobody there was in place, was in charge, had authority, will, or otherwise to stand up and do it. And then we asked the question, well, geez, who in the world would put those kind of ideas and actions into their young people, take out into the street. And I say it because they've seen it at home. In every case, they see it on the internet. Listen, we have become a land of bullies. We've become a land of people who really could love but choose not to.
Yeah.
We understand that really.
Yeah.
Right?
I hear.
Tell me how
well, this is why we always like talking a lot. I still think, like, even in that building where that kid had, and you and I have had this experience.
Mm-hmm.
We were at a particular school and we're just kind of wandering around. All of a sudden, we get in a conversation with the teacher, and she's nearly got tears to us because I didn't think there's anybody like this in the building, right? And it's like, and so then you know that there's more of her. But there they are. They're sitting there quietly because the building has told them that there's certain things that you do to go along and get along. So I believe, clap back for me is to tie it back to what we talked about. If in each of these organizational structures, is there somebody with a vision that has to do with more than just what they think they're there to do with? So if you're administrating a building, a school building, right?
Why?
Right? You know why they're all there to get grades, and you got the staff and this great educational department to do that. So then what is your purpose, right? What leadership are you going to provide? Well, the leadership could be, hey, we treat each other nicely. We behave. We have a certain citizenship in here. And so no matter whether you're going to Brown or whether you're going to Barry University, you're going to be a certain type of person coming from here. No matter whether you take a year off or go to Nova or you just decide to go get a technical license and become a mechanic, you're going to be a certain type of person. And I think in those buildings, as we've always said, what can happen is that adults are so busy reacting to adults that they kind of forget the kids, We
got to remember why. And again, I go back to this often.
Mm.
Those good people are there.
Mm-hmm.
They just need to love louder than the other thing.
They need some leadership.
They need to love more often than the other thing.
Yeah.
And they need to love more consistently than the other thing.
They need some leadership because going back to that lady, I remember we were sitting by the door at the entrance of the gym, and she was a particular teacher, and she was telling us, she was just starving for that stuff. Well, she made a little connection with us, but there was no leadership in the building reinforcing what we're doing. As you kind of alluded to, there was more resistance to the we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's what had beat her down as a teacher over the years. She had been doing that type of stuff, but then she found there was no gain in it, even though it was the right thing to do, So I think leadership, a little bit of leadership, a little bit of leadership, a little vision. What does my man say? Just a little bit, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Like I said, I just think that this stuff exists, that they're good coaches, good parents, good kids, good teachers, good mentors, good leadership in the community. And ultimately, that if we are louder, and more consistent in that, in the why and the what and the how, and we get past the other stuff. You and I are going to have several of these conversations over the time. Different things, different directions. You and I both know we could do about 20 of these, and we still ain't going to get to it. But I want to thank you for time today. Again, proud of you, proud of proud of your family in the house and out, right?
Yeah.
And
got more coming.
And I appreciate you having this conversation with me outside the car. Sometimes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, folks. That's Coach Barry Thompson, Flint Hill Academy, Fairfax Football Academy. Just all-around good guy. Congratulations on the great year. More is coming. Hopefully, we added to and leave you with a little bit more love than you had before you got here. Y'all,
all right. LovePrints.
Yes, sir.